Good afternoon, friends. This is Dave at Dave's Raised Bed Garden. I just wanted to take a few minutes to actually talk about a little bit that an app. I'm getting ready to go to work, but I wanted to spend the time just the next few minutes just to share something that I feel like that in gardening, especially raised bed gardening, there's a lot of things that you need to be able to make yourself a gardener, whether it's information you get from other gardeners, experience is a big thing, knowing when something happens, what to do, understanding that when you have a problem when cold weather comes in or whatever, you make mistakes, and then what you do is you get back up, and then what you'll do is replant or whatever you need to do to be able to make sure your next time it doesn't happen to you. Now, that being said, is that I believe that every gardener needs to have some type of a tool, that whether it's a tool they use on the actual garden bed or the garden area, or if it's like fertilizers and other things that we use to help our plants grow. But importantly, I believe that also is that you need good information to be able to guide you along, especially if you're a new gardener. Now, I am, and I have been traditionally a traditional gardener, where you till up the land, you have the rows and everything, and you do that, and there's a lot of things that you do. But in time, that what had happened is that I learned about raised bed gardening, and I had to learn it and never done it before, understanding it and doing a lot of things and learning it. But in my time doing it since 2018, I have learned a lot that's made me a better gardener, to the point that when I started creating, I wanted to share videos based on my gardening experience in hopes that my experience will be able to help other gardeners out. But what I want to do is that this video, I just basically want to talk about an app that I have been using. It's an app that I really enjoy. It gives a lot of information. There's a lot of things that it can be help, especially for the new gardener or a seasoned gardener, because there's a lot of things that you're trying to figure out. And sometimes by me looking on YouTube and seeing so many different gardeners and everything with their own pages and stuff and their experience and what they've been doing, is always a good information, and I enjoy doing that. But when I'm out here in the garden, if it's 6 o'clock in the morning or even 7 o'clock at night, and I see something, and having an app to be able to go to is a really big benefit to me. So the app that I'm introducing you to is the one that I've been using. I did share this video several years ago after I started using it, but I have now become a subscriber to it that I did a couple years ago, and it gives me even more advantages as a subscriber that I pay per year. That what it does is it helps me, because as a raised bed gardener, I always want to keep a journal of what I've been able to do, and then being able to write it down. But having an app that I can use, that I can find out that what bed grew better with certain vegetables or what time of the year and everything. But this app just gives me a clue and a guidance along as I'm doing my gardening experience. So let's turn the camera around and I'll show you what I'm talking about, this app, which is called Seed to Spoon. So I've actually opened the app. I can actually broaden it where you can see it a little bit better, but I wanted to show you exactly what it looks like when you first open up the app, and that it gives you a lot of different general informational things that you can go into each section. This section here is actually your growing guides. It talks about your plants. This actually in the middle is based on where my zone is, and the temperature today is, it says right now, is 79 degrees, and it tells me what the weather. So it gives me the weather here. Also, it tells me the insects or the critters, and then I can go in and I can identify a plant, and also it gives me plant help, and then also if I need to identify certain insect or a pest that's coming into my garden. As you open it, you'll see this big wide screen here, this big area. And what this area is that when it hits your attention, and also they'll also put something up here at the top when you open it, especially if there's potential for like freezing weather or different weather that may harm your garden or so forth, when it's a drought or so forth. But what it does is that this tells me that on this information, it's telling me in my zone that 2 weeks until the last spring frost. That means the last frost that's going into the spring, which we are into the spring, but it's based on your zones. The zones that we live in, the north and the west and the south, it's based on it. So down south in Alabama and Texas, they're actually having warmer temperatures. So a lot of those have already planted, and it's based on the guides of a lot of them are actually planting their warm weather plants. There's a lot of things and try to distinguish and stuff that where you're able to look at. So this app is actually a guide that helps me to know, because it is based on the information that I give back to it, whether it gets it off my phone, that I use on my Google Maps and so forth. And what it does is it tells me the zone that I am actually in. And when I go into it, then I can decide on how my vegetables and everything that I'm planting on the time of the season that I need to grow it. You'll notice down here that this is my garden bed. This is actually one that I did. And what I've done is that over on this section, the green is actually my cabbages, and then along the outside of it is actually the onions. It's called companion gardening. So with this guide, I can actually take each bed, I can put the measurements in, and then what it does is that it just does a simple breakdown. If I have a 4x8 bed, it breaks it down based on what we call square foot gardening, is that in each section you want to put those vegetables into a square foot, and it determines on how many vegetables will go into that. But what it does is that it gives me a guide to be able to actually help me. The other neat thing about it is that when I plant it and when I go into it, is that it allows me to see the date that I planted, and I'm actually going to show you in the guide what I'm talking about. But very quickly, the other things is that there are trending plants that are very popular and things, and it gives me a lot of information on there. And then when it's talking about let's grow, basically in this area is that vegetables or plants that I can plant now, or vegetables that I can plant later on or soon. So it gives me that. And then I have a planting calendar. The planting calendar is another source that you would use. And it basically, if I'm planting indoors, if I'm planting outside, if I'm doing, what ones that do not like heat and so forth. So the calendar gives me a lot of specifics, because there are certain vegetables based on the timing that I plant them that I'm going to actually plant new vegetables in there. And then while those plants are ending up the harvest time, it gives me advantage to be able to see what I can plant with those beds. Because in raised beds and even containers, what you want to try to do is a good benefit is actually what we call companion gardening. This app also they have live workshops, they have videos, they have a lot of articles, and then right here you can do garden themes based on if you want to do like a salsa bed or so forth, and a hot bed or a habanero and different things. So you can name the beds, and it just gives you a little tool to be able to use. And then the growing health, meaning is that I have some health issues and I have stomach issues. So what I want to do is to know for me what vegetables and things that are very good for my digestive system and so forth. So they give a lot of information, and then of course there's other things that they have, the videos and such. And you can go into each part of this, and then you can actually look at it, and is it a guide for you in your gardening. So what I want to do is I want to go up here to the top left, and I want to actually open up this. And what this is that this gives me a guides based on the vegetables and how I grow and what I grow. And so what I can do is I can go to each one, and basically I'm going to go to one that I like to grow, which is bush beans. It's a bean plant that only grows about 18 inches tall to 24 inches based on the type of bean it is. But what it does is that it tells me over here in the left side, it's a warm weather plant. And then when I can go into it, then it gives me a guide that I can go into. So the planting dates, it tells me that the planting dates, like I can go in from April the 21st until the May the 19th. That is a time that a guide, that is the best time for me to grow. Because again, when we're doing this growing mechanism and everything, I want to know based on the timeline that I have, because my whole plant is that I am a 3-season gardener. I plant cool weather plants twice a year, and I also plant the warm weather plants. But like for the beans is that it tells me, so it gives me a guide. This will be for planting seeds only, and it tells me that time, and then it gives me a lot of information. And then for fall planting, I can do it again because it's a short season crop. I can do it again in August, but I got to remember with the cool weather coming in, and based on my zone, sometimes we get frost. It's been cold on Halloween, the end of October, but then we haven't had a really cold frost until mid to even end of November. So it changes. So it gives me a good idea, but this is the thing that it tells me is like on this, is that it gives me down here the square foot. How many beans can I grow in a square foot? And it's telling me 4. So I would put 4 seeds and I'd separate them in that square foot. What it tells me over here is that it gives me a container, the size of a container. Remember, with this container, when I look at the seed, the square, I am looking that for actually the container gardening too. But then it also tells me down here that my sprout to harvest, the sprout is after it has germinated and the plant actually breaks through the soil. So that's my start, and it goes to harvest is 50 to 60 days. Now I can get several harvests off of beans, but it gives me a guide, and then it lets me know, and then it tells me that it requires full sun. It gives me water requirements, and then it tells me the seed depth is 1 inch, and it tells me how many days to sprout, which is 5 to 10. That's the germination time. And then it tells me the mature height, which is about 12 to 18 inches tall, the family that it comes from. And so there's a lot of information that it gives me in this app. I can look based on the plants if I'm doing companion gardening. I want to see what companions are the best ones for the plant with these vegetables. So it gives me all of these vegetables that you see here that I can grow in that bed. Also, it gives me the enemies, what vegetables are not good to grow with the green beans. So when you're dealing with that, and basically when the enemies that we call, that they use the term enemies, that the plants that don't grow well together, is that because based on it is that they are competing or fighting for the same nutrients. And what happens is in the long run is that you will get a lesser harvest, and then also you'll have one vegetable that won't do well. So in companion gardening, you want to make sure that the vegetables or the plants that you have are able to grow with each other. And so there's a lot of different things it gives me. It gives me the health benefits about this plant. So when I go into the guide, everything that I overall showed you in the beginning, it's going to show me in this guide to where each individual plant, whether it's a flower or a vegetable, that I can use. So this app, Seed to Spoon, is a very good app that I really like to use. And it's really helped me overall. There's so many things that you can do with this app, but this is a good way, especially as a new gardener, to be able to go in and see what you're able to do in your zone. It gives you a lot of information, and so not only will it help you in your guide and your gardening, it'll also give you beneficial information. With this app, it shows me and gives me a legitimate guide that will help me in my gardening experience. So I just wanted to introduce this to you. It's called Seed to Spoon. You can go to your app store. You can go on Google Play. You can actually download it. And then also what they do is that for it, you can use it free, but with the added benefits that you get if you become a member and you have subscription, there's a lot of things that you'll be able to do even more that actually gives you that this app would not give you if you only did it for free. So giving this information based on the app that I like to use, Seed to Spoon, is something that has really helped me overall as a gardener. It gives me more of a guide, especially in companion gardening or raised bed gardening. And this is the app that I wanted to show you. I'm really big on sharing things that really help me. I don't get paid from this company. They do not do anything for me other than they help me as a gardener, but I'm very true to what I do. The plants that I buy from local distributors or local vendors here in my area, I promote those places because they've been a help to me, and I'm going to promote things that I feel that's going to benefit me, but not only benefit me but benefit you. And this app again is called Seed to Spoon. I'll put a little icon on here so you'll know, and then so you'll know what it looks like to be able to get in there and to use it. So from Dave at Dave's Raised Bed Garden, keep planting, keep growing. God bless you, and take care.